Hello. Looks like I'm live. Let me know if you can hear me all right. Just want to check my microphone levels, see if I need to adjust anything here with the gain. Probably take a minute for the comments to catch up. Let's see. Certain vids, hello. You can hear me fine, great. Not too quiet. Yeah, looks like people can see me. Just gonna put this out here on Twitter. Let's see, I can see the notification here live. Oh, mute myself there. Hello, how's everyone doing today? Hope you're having an okay Halloween so far. It's only about noon here on the West Coast, but I thought now would be a nice time to hang out and chat after going kind of crazy this year with the Halloween videos. And let's see, I'm just going to put this out on Twitter. Very exciting video watching me post stuff. Perfect. Looks like it's all good now. Okay, so I figured it's so weird. Nathan Wood. It looks like nobody's trick or treating tonight. Really bizarre. I know, it's very strange. In my I live in a condo community, and people put up decorations, but it seems like most people aren't going to be really trick or treating very much, which is understandable. We're gonna get some candy, put it in a bowl, maybe for people to come by and grab it, but less contact. Just make sure everyone's safe. We don't want to make anyone feel not safe or anything like that. But yeah, so it's going to be a strange Halloween, but it was fun this month doing all those horror videos and getting into the spirit. That was fun because I love Halloween and it's fun celebrating all month, but it's kind of strange this year. But felt like the Halloween spirit was real this year with doing a lot of videos and getting people going and stuff, like just having fun. And of course doing the One Horrifying Moment collab, which debuted this past Wednesday. Hopefully you've seen some of that. There's a lot of great videos. It was really awesome getting everyone involved in that and getting into the Halloween spirit and having people enjoy that. But if you haven't seen that, I'd say go check that out. Let's see. I'll start going through the comments. This is just a Q&A. We're just going to chat and hang out live, and feel free to ask me anything, and we'll just talk. It doesn't have to be about horror or Halloween. It can be about anything, but if you have questions or just want to chat, feel free to talk amongst yourselves too in the comments and respond. And yeah, it'll be fun. Looks like we have about 40 people right now hanging out. I'm sure that might go up as the video goes a little further. But yeah, so let's see. Let me start scrolling through the questions and keep asking them, even if I haven't gotten to your question yet, because it'll take a little. I'll answer, keep going, and I'll try and keep up. But yeah, that's what we'll be doing. I think maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on how many questions I have, how many people are interested. So yeah, let's see. I was asking how everyone's doing. Let's see. Taylor Edwards asks, what is your favorite Halloween special? So I think you're talking TV specials. Well, I'm a big fan of a lot of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes, especially the early ones. I think when it comes to those, I think Treehouse of Horror 3 is my favorite. That's the one with King Homer and the zombie one. Those are in there. I'm trying to remember what the third one is, but that's one of my favorites. Of course, I'm a big fan of It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. That's probably my favorite of all time. I rewatched that last night. It's a Halloween tradition to carve pumpkins and then watch that sometime in the week before Halloween. So we have some jack-o'-lanterns here now, and thankfully we did it right before Halloween, so they're actually not going to be rotten before Halloween because it's still pretty warm here in California, and that causes jack-o'-lanterns to rot pretty quickly. But yeah, so I was saying Treehouse of Horror, and I was thinking about doing a Great Pumpkin video this year, but I ended up switching around my schedule a little. Didn't do it, but I'm thinking next Halloween. I've been meaning to make one for a while and talk about that special because I did several Charlie Brown videos several years ago. If anyone's seen those, talked about the Peanuts movie, and then I talked about the Christmas special. And that was super fun to do. And Vince Guaraldi, I talked about Vince Guaraldi and that sort of stuff. But I would say those are my favorites. Let me see. Treehouse of Horror number 3, I would say, is my favorite. But anyone else like Treehouse of Horror? Let me know if those are some of your favorites. Let's see. Some Jack Claus responding to how's everyone doing. Said pretty okay, aside from learning about Sean Connery's recent passing. I know he just passed away. Saw the news this morning. 90 years old. It's quite the life. I'm a James Bond fan. I think my favorite Bond of Connery's would be From Russia with Love. That's the second James Bond, and I really like that one a lot. I think he's great. Goldfinger is the one that sort of locked in the James Bond formula, but I really like From Russia with Love a lot. I think that's a super fun one. I love just the style of that one. And then, of course, I love him in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's my personal favorite Indiana Jones movie. And he's great in that as Indy's father. Let's see. Max Power Hellblazer video soon. I think sometime, I would hope sometime in the next year. I've been thinking about doing a Hellblazer video, and then I just did a Swamp Thing video about American Gothic, which is the debut of John Constantine, or Constantine. I know there's a lot of debate over how his name is pronounced, and I said Constantine, and some people were like, "Oh, that's not how you pronounce it," blah blah blah. But whatever, if I pronounced it the other way, plenty of other people would have said otherwise. So it's kind of a no-win. And this is the internet, and plenty of people like to speak their mind in YouTube comments. Let's see. Snapper Review says rewatching the Burton Batman movies today. That's a fun way to celebrate Halloween. Those are kind of creepy and weird and have a lot of like gothic elements, and I'm a fan of those. And I was actually thinking about doing a video on Batman or Batman Returns sometime in the next year. So that'll be fun to do. I think those are fun movies. They're not perfect. I think the first Batman movie has a lot of flaws. I'm a bigger fan of Batman Returns. Maybe that's not a popular opinion, but the first Batman movie I think looks better in like stills than actually watching it as a movie. Like it's a very aesthetically like pleasing movie, and it's got a lot of cool style, but I think it's kind of strangely paced and edited. So that's kind of what I think about that. But I'll probably talk about it more in an eventual video. Let's see. Do you remember Monstober on Disney Channel? I only had cable for a very brief time growing up. I only had cable, I think, for one summer as like a free package for a few months. Otherwise, my family didn't have cable when I was a kid, so I don't remember Monstober. Let's see. Kevin the Collector, what are some of your favorite Halloween memories? Mine are when I dressed up as Dracula in 2002. Watched WWE and watching AMC Fear Fest back in 2005, although up until 2014 staying home. That's fun. I like that. I mean, it's fun to dress up and just have little Halloween traditions. Growing up, I mean, my family wasn't super into Halloween, which is maybe why I'm really into Halloween now. It kind of counterbalancing what my family was into by being way more into it now. But I think the first costume that I ever dressed up as was Captain America. Back in like 2000, like when I was in like, I don't know, second or third grade. There's a picture of me with it. And it's a very like cheesy kind of looking costume, the light blue, and it's like fake muscles and everything like that. This is before Captain America was in the movies, and it's fun. It was a very cheaply made costume, but my family kept it for a long time. Let's see. Let me look through some more comments. Dante Crotogini, I'm probably mispronouncing that. Have you read Tangled Web of Spider-Man or any secondary Spider-Man title? There are a few that are really good and underrated. No one talks about those. I know a lot of people stick to Amazing when when people talk about Spider-Man, but there's a lot of great ones. Tangled Web's really cool. That's the one that has a lot of smaller stories, a lot of different writers. I think Tangled Web is the one that is Flowers for Rhino is one of the arcs in that, which is a great story arc. And that one also has, is it the 100? I think that's the 100, where the Spider-Man enemy that's made up of hundreds of spiders, which is really disgusting because it's like Peter Parker's rival in school like eats the radioactive spider after it dies, and suddenly he's turned into hundreds of spiders. It's really disgusting. Yeah, it's really gross. Let's see. Galactic 85. Hey, Matt, I'm a die-hard Daredevil fan. However, I gave up on reading DD Comics when Soule took over the title. Soule or Soleil, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I have heard you praise Zdarsky's DD. Without spoilers, why do you recommend it? Zdarsky's Daredevil is amazing. I'm not quite caught up. I'm a trade waiter with most comics, and I'm through the first 20 issues, and I think they're at issue 23 in the annual now. So I'm not quite caught up, but it's been incredible. Without spoiling it, the first arc sees Matt kind of get back into being Daredevil after kind of having this near-death experience at the end of Soleil's, and he makes some serious mistakes and then questions being Daredevil. And it's a really interesting kickoff to the run, because it's all about Matt questioning whether being Daredevil is the right thing, but in a really interesting way. Like, he's questioning his faith and he's questioning how much good he does. And it gets a lot into criminal justice and vigilantism and also corporate corruption, and has these like really interesting deeper issues that are going on out just beyond his own personal life and his own like quest as Daredevil. And I think Zdarsky does a really good job at exploding the concept of Daredevil in a bigger way, and it's really cool. It's got great action too. Marco Cicchetto's really amazing. And it's been great. I love it. I think it's, I didn't actually read all of Soule's run. And I was just okay with it. Like, he was going like really dark for just the sake of being dark. And I thought he would be a really good Daredevil writer, and he's not bad, but he didn't really capture my attention in the way that I was expecting to, because the first time he wrote Daredevil was in a couple issues of She-Hulk that I really enjoy. I think his She-Hulk it's a super short run, but it's really great. And I highly recommend anyone checking out She-Hulk, and his Daredevil in that is really good, but I just wasn't super captivated by his own personal DD run. Let's see, Daw88 says, we won't be getting any more Hellboy videos, right? You will not be getting any more Hellboy videos, unfortunately. Liam asks, what's your favorite anime? I like anime, but I'm not really deep into it, so probably Cowboy Bebop. I'm a big fan of Cowboy Bebop. I did a video on that one. Let's see. Well, this is what I look like. Yes, this is what I look like sometimes. If you go and check out my live video from, I'd say, 6 months ago or so, before the start of all the quarantine, my hair was a lot shorter and I didn't have any facial hair. This is my quarantine look. I've gotten a lot shaggier. I think it looks all right. Let's see. Oh, For Every Kind of Geek. Hello. Happy to be here. How long in advance? Check out For Every Kind of Geek. If you like my channel, you'd really like his channel too. They put out a lot of interesting comic book stuff. They were part of the One Horrifying Moment, so please check them out. Really awesome. How long in advance did you start planning the Halloween videos? A couple months in advance, I would say. Yeah, I had a bunch of different ideas for the Halloween videos, and I slowly banked them up. And there was stuff that I reread and I rewatched, and I like kind of got a grip on kind of the ideas that I wanted to say. And I think I started making the first Halloween video, which was the Nightmare on Elm Street one. I think I made that like at the beginning of September. So I just kept rolling through, and I was super far ahead on all the Halloween stuff. So that's why I was able to do a video a week, because I was able to maintain like the production of ahead of schedule. And actually went on like a short like vacation like a week ago, because I was done with everything. Socially distanced and safe, and we had an Airbnb, and it was nice, and it was really nice to take a break. But yeah, I kind of started it pretty far in advance. but I like far enough in advance that I could change some of the schedules around. Let's see. Some Okie Dude says, what's some comics or books that you're reading at the moment? I just finished Immortal Hulk volume, is it 8? The latest one, the latest volume that was published, called Hulk is Hulk. I just finished that. Really great, extremely disturbing, great Immortal Hulk stuff. I think the book is still on a fantastic pace, and I'm really enjoying it. I love the way that Ewing takes the central horror concepts and applies them to a lot of different like personal and societal and psychological issues. And he continues to do a great job with that. And I just finished Zdarsky's Daredevil 16 through 20 right before that. And I'm currently reading Stephen King's The Stand very slowly. It's a big book, but that's kind of, I'm reading it chapter by chapter and at a kind of a slow pace, but I'm really enjoying that. And then I am starting to reread a bunch of Daredevil comics in preparation for December, which is Darecember. Last year I did this where we did Daredevil videos all throughout December. We're doing that again. Maybe I'll preview some topics later on if you're interested. Let's see. Game Boy Punk. I hope Disney Plus Hawkeye series is faithful to the recent Hawkeye comic run like Disney promised. It seems like it's going to be Fraction's Hawkeye run. That's what the promo art has shown. You've got Clint and Kate, and they even and Lucky, and they even have like a promo art that kind of looks like the car chase from like issue 3, I think. I hope so. I mean, that's one of my favorite runs of all time. And I think I would like MCU Hawkeye more if he was played more like Fraction Hawkeye, probably. Because I like him, but he's not a very compelling character at the moment. Taylor says, what is your favorite Treehouse of Horror special? I think I already answered that one with Treehouse of Horror 3. James says, your work is the best. Thank you. What's your... the FYZ95 says, what's your favorite horror movie that came out in the past 5 years? Past 5 years. I want to make sure that I know. When did It Follows come out? 2014. That's a little outside of that. Oh gosh, this is tough. I always lose track of when movies were actually made. Let me look through some recent ones. Let's see. We're going to go year by year here, see if there's anything that interesting. Just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Conjuring was pretty good, but that's not from the last few years. Conjuring 2 was 2016, and I thought that was kind of disappointing. I don't think that was nearly as good as the first one. I liked It. I'm not as big of a fan of It Chapter 1 as a lot of people are, and I think It Chapter 2 is pretty bad, actually. I really did not like that movie. But I like It. I wouldn't say it's anywhere in my top horror movies, though. It's fun. Get Out, of course, is 2016. Get Out is amazing. I love all the different themes and allegories running through that movie. I didn't like Us as much as Get Out. I thought it was pretty interesting, but I didn't like it quite as much. The new Halloween, the reboot or restart of the franchise, I thought was solid. Fun. If you like the Halloween franchise, you'll like that movie, and I enjoyed it. Hereditary, solid. I like that. Maybe not as much as other people, but I enjoyed it. It was very disturbing in many, many ways. Oh, well, I would say if you count Mandy, which is more of like a revenge thriller, but if you count it as a horror movie, because it definitely has horror movie elements, I would really put Mandy in some of my favorite horror movies. Not just of the last 5 years, but just in general. Huge fan of Mandy. I did a video on it. Heartbeat City, fave recent horror comics. I don't read a ton of horror comics. I'll pick and choose here and there. If any of you have your favorite horror comics, put them in the comments so I can see some suggestions. Maybe that'll spark my interest or just my memory, either. Which John Wick movie inspired the look you have right now? Hi, Wisdom. Nice to see you. Oh gosh, I'm not nearly as good looking as Keanu Reeves. He's a handsome man. Oh, let's see. Let me go back through the comments here. What were your thoughts on The Invisible Man earlier this year? I actually only watched that like a month ago, and I really liked it. I thought that Elizabeth Moss did an amazing job. She's incredibly talented, and she really sold that entire movie. Like, so much of that movie really isn't any actual effects. There's a lot of just implied, ideas. She's reacting to like a chair or just an empty hallway, and she was amazing, and I really enjoyed Wanell's like modern take on it. Like, it's sort of a metaphor for gaslighting and the way that all of that is like preying on her mind. Great stuff. She did a fantastic job with that. Let's see. CHX SC, have you ever abandoned any idea for a video? Yeah, actually, there's been time. I have a big list of video ideas. There's a huge Google Doc with tons of video ideas. Some are really specific, and some are just like, some are like this specific take on this comic or movie, and some are just this comic or movie, I should talk about it. But there's been a few that I've abandoned, and maybe I'll get around to it. I started writing a video on Aliens Dead Orbit, which I'm a huge fan of that comic. If you're an Aliens fan, you should definitely read Dead Orbit by James Stokoe, who did Godzilla, which I'm wearing a Godzilla shirt right now. Godzilla Half Century War, which is awesome. He also did one called Dead Orbit for the Alien franchise. I loved it. And I started to write it, but then I think I wasn't quite sure what to say at the moment, so I just stopped, and I put it on the back burner. And I will eventually do that video, but I stopped. And then I almost did a video on Tom King's Vision, but I started rereading it, and it just made me really depressed. And then I was like, I don't want to like sit in this for like 2 weeks, rereading it and analyzing it and talking about it and then editing the video and all that sort of stuff. Like, it's a great comic. It's nothing to do with the quality of it, but I just didn't want to sit in it for these things take a while. You really have to you have to form your headspace around the topic that you're covering. At least that's how I do it. And it was just like, this is a great comic, but it's really dark and depressing, so I'm going to stop it for now. Maybe later. Dante asked, have you read Black Hole? I have not read Black Hole. That's a big blind spot for me. It's Chris Burns. I think I might be wrong on that, but I know Black Hole. But I've been meaning to read it. It's one definitely that I want to read. Critical Rants asked, have you read Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen by Fraction and Lieber? I just finished it last night and it was a trip. Yes, I've seen For Every Kind of Geek continue to pester you about that until you read it. I haven't read it. I really want to read it. It will happen. I'm a big fan of Fraction, obviously, and Lieber, and it looks like super fun. I'm kind of between reading new comics because the reading and watching and research time for the videos takes up a lot of the free time, and so I'll just one at a time kind of read a new comic or watch a new movie. So it's not all dedicated to making videos, but I do want to read that, especially because it just came out in TPB. Let's see. Yes, I'll be uploading the stream. It'll be live after this. It's not going to go private or anything. It'll probably take a few minutes for it to go live and all that sort of stuff. But yeah. Snapper Reviews, hi. Nice to see you. Hi, Matt. What are your thoughts on Ice Cream Man so far? Also, I read My Favorite Thing is Monsters earlier this month and liked it a lot. Great. Yes, I'm a big fan of My Favorite Thing is Monsters. I did a video on that. And it's nice to push more people to it because it's easy to just do videos on comics or movies that everyone knows, because that's how you get a lot of people to watch a video. But when you do a video on a comic that maybe less people know, or something that's really really fascinating, because My Favorite Thing is Monsters it's fun to push more people to it, because that was really critically acclaimed, but it is an indie comic. Ice Cream Man has been great. I'm not caught up. I think I've read like the first 15 issues, I think. But it's great. It's an incredibly disturbing horror comic. The way that it's Maxwell Prince, and I'm blanking on the other guy, on the artist. But the way that they take this really simple setup, if you don't know what it is, it's about an evil ice cream man, and everywhere he goes, he puts a new victim into some horror story. Something terrible happens. But they take that general setup and they do a lot of different things with it. But it's really great. It's always disturbing in different ways. And if you're into horror, I think you'll really like it. But it's a really messed up book. Let's see. Certain vids, have you been enjoying Nick Spencer's current ASM run? I have read 0 issues of that run. Nothing against it. I haven't read a lot of like the last modern Spider-Man story that I kept up with was Superior Spider-Man. So I'm not caught up in the slightest. So I have no opinions. I know some people like and some people don't. Let's see. Sloth Draft. You listen to Chris Cornell. Could be it's just because I'm drunk, but you look like him. The longer hair and the goatee definitely does that. If I didn't have that going on, probably not. But I do listen to Chris Cornell, or I have. I think I got really bummed out when he died a few years ago. But I really like. Yeah, I'm a fan of his solo work and stuff with the bands, and yeah. Max Power, favorite Vertigo title? That's tough. There's a lot of maybe. Gosh, I don't know. I don't even know anymore. Especially given the the length of that imprint and everything that happened with it. You go from like classic Vertigo to modern Vertigo, and you go from like the lot of the fantasy and horror is a lot of like the emphasis at the start, and then later they really got into more like modern like crime. And so Vertigo is interesting because it has such like a span. There's such a huge span, and what was cool about it was like the freedom that it gave to creators to do like so much, and that was because of Karen Berger, the editor. And then of course when Image came along, especially like maybe a decade in, they really they gave creators even more freedom, to do what Vertigo was already doing, but also to be able to keep like the rights to their books and to make money off their books. And so they didn't have to, give the rights away to DC like Vertigo did. So it's kind of tough, but everyone likes Sandman. Y the Last Man is amazing. That's maybe my favorite. There will be a Y the Last Man video at some point. Before the TV show comes out, because it's fun to ride the wave of interest from a TV show, but also it's nice to look at something unadulterated without the TV show playing into it. So maybe Y the Last Man. Taylor Edwards, what is your favorite Halloween monster? General monsters or specific characters? Well, if it's just a general monster, it's hard to beat zombies. I like vampires and werewolves. But if it's specific, maybe Frankenstein's monster, Bride of Frankenstein. Have you watched The Nightmare Before Christmas? Yes, I watched it a lot, like back in the day. Back when I was in middle school, our like homeroom teacher used to show it to us like all the time. Like we watched it on breaks like constantly. So I've seen that movie. I think I've seen that movie like 20 times, but like I haven't watched that movie for more than a decade. So it would be easy to jump back in. Let's see. What is your favorite Superman story? Funny that you asked because the next video is about Superman. But my favorite Superman story, gosh, For the Man Who Has Everything is pretty amazing. Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. I mean, those are both Alan Moore, but I love those. The Tomasi Gleason Superman runner was really amazing. I especially like the 2 issues at the county fair. Those are some of my favorites. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. That character has 80 years of stories, but what's nice is that there's a lot of great ones. So it's tough to say. Alien Boy 13 really wants me to make more unmade horror film videos. I probably won't make another one until Halloween, next Halloween. I'm not sure what the topic will be, but I do want to make more unmade sequel videos in general, like for other franchises. I have a few in mind, but you'll get the style of unmade movies, but it'll be branching out into different genres and topics. But I don't know what the next unmade horror film video will be, because it all depends on if the franchise has enough unmade ones. Like Friday the 13th was a really good topic for the first one because there were so many. I think I talked about like 15 different ones if you don't include all the different Freddy versus Jason. And then Nightmare was fun. It didn't have quite as many as Friday the 13th. It didn't have as many that almost made it into production like Friday the 13th. Like a lot of the Nightmare ones were just someone throwing a script or someone pitching it and not happening. Yeah. Let's see. Max Power thoughts on Mike Mignola's Dracula. I haven't read it, but the YouTube channel Panels to Pixels, Josh is a good friend of mine, is doing a video on that, and it should be out today. So please subscribe to Panels to Pixels because he will be talking about Mike Mignola's Dracula. What's your opinion on the Arkham games? They're great. I haven't played Knight. I haven't played Arkham Knight, but no one seemed to like that one as much. But I really enjoyed all of them. Let's see. Will you continue doing the Daredevil TV show breakdowns? Yes. Daredevil Season 2 will be a video this coming December, so look out for that. Oh, hi, Top Films is here. Hi, Alex. Nice to see you. And thanks for dropping by. Favorite classic Universal monster? Wolfman terrified me as a kid. Yeah, that's tough. Bride of Frankenstein's my favorite Universal monster movie. It's just I love that movie. It's got so much going on. It's got great style, and there's a lot of metaphor going through it. I would highly recommend anyone that's interested in classic Universal monster movies to definitely check out Bride of Frankenstein. You don't need to see the original Frankenstein because they do a little recap, and it's kind of its own story anyway. And everyone kind of knows already the story of Frankenstein, but Bride of Frankenstein, just go for that. It's amazing. Like, I did a video on that several years back through the lens of queer theory and kind of what was being said with that movie. It's fascinating. But Wolfman's great too. I love the makeup and the effects, and it's so creepy, and yeah, it's just fun. Those movies are just fun. You know, they're just fun to watch. You know, even if you don't really like horror movies, or if horror movies scare you really easily, if you're an adult, you can watch those and they're super fun. As long as you're fine with the pace of movies that are 70, 80 years old now. Let's see. Samoki Dude, my favorite Spidey story is Spider-Man Blue, which he made a superbly wonderful video on. One of my first videos ever. Yeah. Let's see. Which is better, Hobgoblin or Green Goblin? That depends on who's behind the mask, but I prefer Hobgoblin. Let's see. Let's keep going. I want to catch up a little bit with your comments here. Going through. Let's see. Ridge Salen says, "Hey, dude, I've been with you since you had 5K subs. Glad to see you grow." Thank you. It's awesome. Yes, I've definitely seen you in the comments before, Ridge. Thank you for sticking with me. It's been a very long journey, but yeah, I'm still having a lot of fun making videos, so we'll keep going. Let's see. Keep going here. Let's see. Daredevil Father. I've not read Daredevil Father. These comments do these things where you go down for a while and suddenly they load and then they drop you all the way down to the bottom of the comments, and that's very very confusing when you're trying to read through and answer people's questions. Let's see. So yeah, Heroes. Could you do a video on Coraline, either comic book or the movie? I'm a big fan of Coraline. I've read a lot of Gaiman stuff, and of course watched a lot of movies on it. The movie, I would probably do it on the movie. It's pretty similar to the book, and I mean the visuals are amazing too. So I'm a fan. I don't know. That could be a topic sometime. I'm not sure yet. Let's see. What are some recommendations for Spider-Man to read, says Super 7. There's a ton. If people have recommendations for Spider-Man to read, please put them in the comments, because it's tough. I don't know how, there's like thousands of Spider-Man comics. It's tough to narrow it down. Oh man, I am so behind in these comments. Favorite schlock horror movie? I mean, I like Friday the 13th movies, so probably that. Like, those are very schlocky and cheesy. Let's see. Tom Pescator says, "Thanks for the Grant Morrison content, dude." Yes, I'm glad you're liking it. I still have one more of the 3 Grant Morrison Batman videos to go. I think they'll cover Batman Inc. and I think that'll be out in January probably. That'll be like one of the main videos for January after December. Michelle Dang says, "Have you watched Haunting of Hill House or the sequel Bly Manor?" Yes, I have. I've watched both. I watched Hill House back when it came out, and I watched Bly Manor pretty quickly after that premiered 2 or 3 weeks ago now, maybe 3 now. I really enjoyed both of them. I think I preferred Hill House. I thought that the story was stronger and it was scarier than Bly Manor. But I liked Bly Manor too. Like, I am all in favor of watching as many of these as they want to do. I think, yeah, I liked Hill House more, but I really like both of them. Let me know what you guys thought if you've seen Haunting of Hill House or Haunting of Bly Manor in the comments, because I really enjoyed them. I'd probably like to rewatch Hill House some point. Let's see. Heartbeat said he excited for Batcat in December. No, not really. No, not at all. Let's see. Geo5, thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much. It's really appreciated. Hey Matt, love your videos. Starting reading Immortal Hulk after the vid you did. Is there any other Hulk comic you would recommend reading after this? Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for watching that video. Thank you for the super chat. I hope that you're enjoying it, because I really love Immortal Hulk. It's definitely one of my favorite ongoing comics right now. Yes, you should read. Let's see, the Peter David run on Hulk is really awesome. It's super long, and maybe you don't have to read all of it, but you should definitely check out Peter David's Hulk. It starts with Todd McFarlane, and I think that's late 80s, early 90s when it starts, and he goes for I think it's 100 issues, and he takes that character everywhere. But all the different Hulk personalities and how they have all their interactions with each other in the Mindscape, that is all Peter David coming up with that, taking all the Hulk's history and making it work with itself. He brings back Grey Hulk. I think maybe Grey Hulk was brought back right before him, but he uses him a lot, and then he comes up with these other Hulk incarnations. It's great. You should definitely check it out. Let's see. I would recommend Planet Hulk. Planet Hulk is really awesome. That's sort of the kind of inspiration for Thor Ragnarok. You should definitely read that because it's really great. And then there's World War Hulk, which is the follow-up, which is the big event. And it's not as good as Planet Hulk, but it's fun. It's just a big fight comic, really, but it's cool. Let's see. Oh, man. I'm trying to think of other specific runs. At least check out those two for now and see what you think of that outside of Immortal, because Immortal is pretty unique. If you don't like Hulk, you might like Immortal, but if you like Immortal, you might not be totally prepared for the rest of Hulk comics. Let's see. Someone says Bruce Jones is run on Hulk. That's right. Yes, that's Return of the Monster, and after that, that's good. That's a good one. If I'm remembering that one right. Let's see. So, are you excited for Tom King's Rorschach? Asks Michelle. Not really. I haven't read the first issue. I'm really hot and cold on Tom King, and I don't need any more Watchmen, but that's just me. Let's see. McDermott says, "Hey Matt, can't stay for the live stream. Just want to say that I really enjoyed the videos that you and your fellow creators made. You all did a wonderful job. Excited for more videos and December." Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Let's see. Got a question from Mausoleum. Hey Matt, love your channel. Do you have any Halloween comic recommendations? Let's see. Maybe read some old EC comics. They're kind of your classic horror comics, and if you're into that, it could be fun. It could be a fun read. Owen likes comics. Thank you for the super chat. Says, "I see your 1980s Frank Miller for Halloween." Yes, exactly. I'm really getting into the Frank Miller mindset for Daredevil. Please, have mercy on me, because that's a scary place to be. Geo with another super chat. Thank you. What are some horror comics to get into? I've read Junji Ito, Ice Cream Man, and Drifting Classroom. I want to go deeper into the world of horror comics. Yeah, some more. Let's see. My favorite thing is Monsters is horror, but it's more about a girl that's really obsessed with horror. So it's but it is a very dark, very dark comic. You might like that. Let's see. Gosh, let me look up some stuff. If people have ideas for more horror comic suggestions, it's very broad. 30 Days of Night is pretty fun. American Vampire is pretty awesome. I would check those out if you're into vampires. Afterlife with Archie is super fun. Very dark, but really, really great. I really enjoyed that. It never finished because the creator went on to do the Archie show and abandoned the comic, but what was made was really good. I said earlier, Aliens Dead Orbit. Definitely check that out if you're a fan of Aliens. Alien Salvation by Dave Gibbons and Mike Mignola is really awesome. That's just a short graphic novel. Check out. Oh, let's see. Yeah, check out those two, Dead Orbit and Salvation. Let's see. Looking through a list here, gonna give you some more options here. Any more? If anyone has suggestions, These Savage Shores is a recent one by Ram V, I think. Check that out. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. That's a lot like Afterlife with Archie, but that actually continued. So maybe check that one out too. Gosh, there's a lot, but those are some of my suggestions. Kind of giving myself. Oh, Fatale. If you like Ed Brubaker, him and Sean Phillips did a horror noir comic called Fatale. I would recommend that. It's like a detective story meets H.P. Lovecraft. It's cool. I really enjoyed that one. Just want to see if there's anything else. The Goon. I'm a big fan of The Goon. It's more horror aesthetics, but that's a super fun comic. I highly recommend The Goon. That stopped, but then it just came back this past year, I think. About the mob enforcer and his friends fighting zombies and monsters in their town. So I would recommend The Goon too. Especially if you're looking for something light and fun. Oh, Ice Cream. Oh, you said Ice Cream Man. Yes. We've already talked about Ice Cream Man. Infidel by Pisha Shote was pretty good. If you're interested in that, I'd say check out Infidel, about a haunted apartment complex. Yeah, those are some. Critical Rant says thoughts on Superior Spider-Man. I'm a fan. I really enjoyed Superior Spider-Man. I thought that was a great run. I have me do a video on it, but I was really compelled by that. Like, I know it was super controversial at the time of Dr. Octopus taking over and the idea of Peter being gone, but I think it's a really strong run with a great story arc and a lot of great art, and I really enjoyed it. Agent of Zahor, have you ever watched a movie so scary that you couldn't watch it again? No. I think that no, that hasn't happened. There's a few movies that like I've seen once that I don't really want to see again, even though they're good, like Schindler's List or Toy Story 3. Have you read Kieran Gillen's Die? Asked Galactic 85. I'm not caught up, but I've really enjoyed what I've read of it, and I'm really enjoying Once and Future also. Gillen's a great writer. I really like both of those, and it's interesting how he's taking these two ongoing fantasy comics to really explore different sides of fantasy, even though both are dealing with the idea of narrative in fantasy. Like, he's exploring the idea of storytelling and being part of a story and what that means for those involved and how the narratives are reshaped around people. I really like both. And if you like Die, you probably like Once and Future. Once and Future is fun and kind of fast and a little more flippant, and Die is a little bit more headier and darker. But I really like both. And maybe when those finish, I'll do videos on those because they're great. Diego Rivera, hi Diego, nice to see you. Please subscribe to Diego's channel. Behold the Sack says Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger. You got to kiss one, marry one, and kill one. Okay, so I would definitely kill Freddy Krueger because he's a very bad man. I would kiss Michael Myers because his mask has lips, so it'd be a little bit easier. And then I would marry Jason because I just think that he could be really handy around the house. He seems like, if you're really vibing with Jason, like he could be a really good domestic partner. Yeah, that was pretty easy. Jester Double, what is your favorite Superman run? I mean, probably Tomasi and Gleason. Probably. Let's see. Oh, Galactic A5 says, thank you for recommending Peter Cannon Thunderbolt on Patreon. I bought it and loved it. One of the best comics I've read in ages. Yeah, check out Peter Cannon Thunderbolt by Kieran Gillen again. It's a really interesting meta commentary on comic books in the wake of Watchmen. It's really great. I would highly check it out. I would highly recommend that you check it out if you're interested in more meta comics, comics about comics. Really great. Michelle Dang, what is a comic that you didn't think would have interested you that amazed you when you read it? This One Summer. If you're familiar with that, I read that fairly recently, and I had always heard good things, but it's by Mariko and Gillian Tamaki, and it is about two young girls who every summer meet together at this lake with their family. And it is just a normal exploration of this one summer that they have and sort of the experiences they go through as they're growing up. And it is a real, like, slow slice of life comic. And it's, I like the more personal, like, everyday life sort of comics, but I was just like, I don't know if this comic will speak to me at all. But I read it and I loved it. I only read that a few months ago, but man, it really blew me away. It made me really emotional, but not because it's not a comic that like tries to squeeze the tears out of you. It's not really trying to punch you in the gut, but it made me really emotional because of how like real and honest it was, about these girls' lives. Yeah, it's great. It's yeah, I would highly recommend it to anyone that is more into more personal drama and slice of life comics in their stories. But yeah, I just loved it. Really, really amazing. Noah asks, have you listened to the Sandman Audible drama? I haven't yet. I know that covers like the first 3 volumes of Sandman, which I've read. So I was not like chomping at the bit to just hear Sandman because I can read Sandman. But I've heard good things. Marcelo Schmidt asks, how long have you been married and why have you hidden that from us? I've been married for 6 years and I didn't hide it. I just didn't talk about it. When was the last time you were truly scared from some comic books? Love your vid, says Mega Comics. Thank you. And when was the last time I was truly scared? I think that Immortal Hulk is actually pretty scary, especially the body horror. It's very disturbing and scary. Usually at least once per volume, there's actually something that is kind of frightening. So yeah, probably that. Let's see. Iron Shell asks, favorite thing from the Alien franchise? That's tough. That's the favorite thing from the Alien franchise. Gosh. Hold on. Well, I'm a big fan of Alien and Aliens. I really love both of those. Actually, I think I slightly prefer Aliens, which might be a controversial opinion. I think they're both great. They're both like A+ movies. And if I had to like maybe just a little bit higher, like yeah, so that's my opinion, but I really love both. The character of Ellen Ripley might be my favorite thing from the Alien franchise. She's awesome. I love the arc that character goes on, especially through 1 and 2, kind of 3, and not Resurrection. But it's a really fun franchise. I love the body horror. I love the design of the alien, the H.R. Giger's design, and the way that they use that and the way that it transformed. The Alien Queen is like one of my favorite monsters of all time. Like the way that she's revealed, like the way that the Alien Queen is revealed with the egg sac and the den, and then the way that character keeps changing with ripping out the egg sac and chasing, and the way that you can see like how intelligent it is. Like I love that, but I love the like primal intelligence of the alien, like the xenomorph, and the way that they are well, depending on the movie, right? They can kind of be like bugs, or they can kind of be like people, or they can kind of be like this weird, like unknowable thing. Like that's this the fear from the first Alien is that how unknowable the xenomorph is. But I also love how in Aliens they're more like a hive. That's really cool. It's a nice sort of extrapolation of that whole monster. It's tough. It's a great franchise, and there's a lot of great comic books that have come out of it. Some good video games. Alien Isolation's fantastic. Like I love that. Like that scared the hell out of me. Like especially because I played a lot of it with headphones on, because that way you can like when you're immersed in that game, it's easier to survive, but it's also way scarier because you're hearing like everything around you. You're really immersed in that. But it's very terrifying. It's tough. Yeah, it's tough to say what my favorite thing from the Alien franchise is, though. Let's see. Any plans on covering any Richard Corbin stuff in a video? Says Daw. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I talked about Corbin when I did the Mike Mignola Hellboy short stories. I need to read more Corbin work, honestly. I haven't read a ton, but he might be fun to cover. I know he's super influential, and I kind of like digging into like the like career of a person too. So we'll see. Henry says, if you haven't read it, I highly recommend Ice Cream Man. Yes, I talked about it a little bit. Would love a video. Yeah, I do. I had thought about doing an Ice Cream Man video, but it's tough because it's hard to say when to when the breaking point is to stop talking about it. Like, do I talk about it like all the way up to the current issues? Do I talk about like the beginning? Do I talk about the story? Do I talk about just the style? Like, there's a lot of different elements in that to break down, and so. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Some Okie dude asks, Immortal Hulk or the Saga of the Swamp Thing? That's really tough because they do have a lot of similarities, using horror and body horror and reinventing the central character to explore societal and environmental issues. Like, it's very clear that Immortal Hulk is inspired by Saga of the Swamp Thing, or at least Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. So it's tough. But I would probably go with Saga of the Swamp Thing. I love Immortal Hulk, and it's still going on, but it's already in some of my top comics ever. Like it's ranked up there high. But Saga of the Swamp Thing by Alan Moore is like lodged like really high up in my favorite comics ever. Like it's right there. So I'll say that has the edge on it probably. Agent of Zehnart, forgive me if someone already asked this. They have not. But what is a good Captain America run you would recommend? Brubaker is like a go-to. And then, Brubaker is like my go-to Captain America run. So go with that for sure. It's great. From Winter Soldier is a great storyline. And maybe the later like Brubaker stuff kind of peters out after he's gone on to his like second and third like volume of Cap, but the first run is really great. Noah asks, have you thought about doing a video on Avatar or Legend of Korra? Yes and no. I'm a big fan of Avatar. I don't like Legend of Korra as much, but I'm a huge fan of Avatar: Last Airbender. But I don't know what to say about it besides that it's awesome. It's really great. I love it. Maybe I'll do a video on like a single episode or something, but I don't know. There's been a lot of Avatar videos. Not that that's a bad thing. It's great. There's been a lot of very talented creators who have talked about Avatar at length. So I'm not entirely sure what else to say about it. It's sort of like why I don't want to do a video on Watchmen. Like not that it's been covered to the degree of Watchmen, but it's sort of like it's been covered a lot, and I don't know what else new I can add to the conversation. Chicken Soup. Ever read Transformers comics, namely IDW's Wrecker Saga and More Than Meets the Eye? I have not, but I've gotten a lot of people have told me that I should read IDW's Transformers because I'm a big fan of IDW's TMNT, and I think they did a great job with that. And everyone says, well, you should really check out Transformers because that's also awesome. Let's see. Any plans to talk about Morrison after the Batman Inc. video? Asks Snapper Reviews. Yeah, I'll keep covering Morrison. Like, this is not the end of the Morrison videos. Like, there's so much that I can talk about. So maybe Doom Patrol at some point, talking about Morrison's Doom Patrol. Maybe Claws. Maybe the Green Lantern. Maybe Animal Man. There's a lot. I'm a huge Grant Morrison fan. Obviously, as you can tell by just watching my videos, like I referenced the hole in things from Morrison's Batman in my Psycho video. So if you caught that was a reference there. But I'm a huge fan. Let's see. Jester Double says, what did you think about the Watchmen TV show? I loved it. I had heard good things, but I didn't watch it until several months after it ended. And I thought it was great. Like, I'm really tired of Watchmen in general, but that show really did something interesting by taking the general idea and moving it forward in time and moving it to a new new ideas and new characters, and almost being like a wraparound series for the original comic, because they go back in time, talk about characters before Watchmen and then now, and it's like, it was really great. The way that the characters were amazing. What they did with like the world of Watchmen was really compelling. The social commentary was really interesting and complicated. I really enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, and that's coming from someone that is, again, like, I don't need more Watchmen. Like, I did not like Doomsday Clock. I don't care about Before Watchmen. I don't care about the Rorschach series. It's been a really long time since I've even read Watchmen, but I thought that the TV show did an amazing job just by taking the concept of Watchmen and then using it to explore modern issues. Let's see. Max Heilman asks me, are you subscribed to Soren Iverson's newsletter? He's super inspiring. I know him personally, so yes, I know his newsletter. Yes, I know him. Let's see. Diego Dan Quixote Rayas, thoughts on spooky scare skeletons? They're spooky and scary, and they're perfect for the season. That's what I think. As George Jones, Grant Morrison, the greatest Batman run ever? That's tough. To me, it's my favorite Batman run ever, because it's really everything I want about that character, and it's everything I want from Grant Morrison. But is it the greatest Batman run ever? It's really hard to say. Everyone has their own, ideas on what it is. So it's tough to be objective about it, because everything's going to speak to you differently, right? Like, there's a core of Batman, and everyone takes that and interprets it in all these different ways. And if you like this type of interpretation, well, someone else is going to go in this direction. And while that doesn't mean it's objectively worse, it might just not speak to you at all. So that's tough. Let's see. Leroy Harston says, I love being here. It's a really cool chat environment. Good. Yes, everyone keep up just be cool to each other. Everyone's been totally fine. So great. I love seeing that. I like being able to have a community around my channel that is positive and not too intense, and just enjoys hanging out. So I really enjoyed that. Eric says Severed by Scott Snyder is a good horror comic. Yes, it's been a long time since I read that, but that was good. That's also a very disturbing comic. Scott Snyder is has his roots in horror. Like, that's like his main, like his origin as a writer. So it's not surprising that like Severed is really good, or something like Batman the Black Mirror that dives into horror is really good. American Vampire. That's probably when I like Snyder the most. Like, I've talked about this on Twitter a bit. I really don't like metal and death metal. Like, to me, those are just the opposite of what I like from event comics or from comics in general. I don't like it when Snyder tries to do Morrison. I like it when Snyder is leaning more into his grounded, like, horror roots. Do I consider Alan Moore's Swamp Thing as a horror comic? Horror adjacent, like horror-ish. It definitely has a lot of elements of body horror. Of course, I wouldn't have included it in the Halloween videos if I didn't think it was somewhat appropriate, especially because American Gothic really dives into it. But that comic goes a lot of places, right? Like American Gothic is doing a lot of like horror stuff, like playing with actual horror tropes and creatures like vampires. But then something like Pog is, talking about Walt Kelly's Pogo, and while it is disturbing, like it's not really a horror comic, so it goes everywhere. The great thing about that is that like he uses this central concept of Swamp Thing to explore like all these different ideas, and that's what makes it a really compelling comic. And not every comic run has to blow out the concept like Alan Moore did. Some can be really focused and driving toward like a specific idea and really like diving in. Like a lot of Daredevil comics are really great in like taking an idea and extrapolating that further and further into the specific idea of the whole run. Where that's great too. But that's an interesting thing about more Swamp Thing is the amount. Let's see. Matt Simpson asks, "Are you going to do an updated IDW TMNT video, especially as they now hit 110 issues?" I've thought about it, or at least something that goes up to 100. The video that I did years ago was up through 50. I know that we had passed 50 by the point that I did that video, but I used 50 as like a breaking point. So maybe it's a lot to reread, and then I'd probably have to reread like issues 1 through 50 to really get a better grasp on what to do. But I would like to cover at some point. I liked where they went with the series. But I didn't think that the finale of 100 was nearly as satisfying as the finale of 50, because like the first 50 issues build to a climax at issue 50, and there's a falling action of 50, and as the book kind of resets and the characters have a new sort of a new world to be in, and then it builds back up to issue 100, and issue 100 is the new climax, and that's the two rising actions of the book. But I felt that 50 and everything that happened with 50 was way more interesting than issue 100. And what's also interesting is that Mateus Santaluco, who is the artist for issue 50, and that a lot of the first 50 issues didn't do a lot of the art for the next 50, but he did write and draw his own miniseries called Shredder in Hell, which ties into the climax of issue 100. And Shredder in Hell was way better than TMNT 100 in that final arc, which was crazy. Like he blew the main creative team out of the water, which I was not expecting. But I loved Shredder in Hell. Like that's a great book. And I think that IDW TMNT up through the final arc of it was flawed, which was really interesting. I don't know how many people are really into that book, but yeah, that was my thought as being like a really long time reader. Let's see. Grim S. Hi, man. I love the way you explore the comics and their deeper meaning. Thank you. That's fun. I just love diving into it or using it to explore different ideas. And also, are you a fan of the New Gods? I like New Gods, but I'm not a New Gods expert. I've only read bits and pieces of Jack Kirby's original run. I read Tom King's Mr. Miracle. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Why did I say it's tough? It's a little tough to get into. I think it's its own mythology to some degree, and I would like to get into it more. I would like to take the time to actually read like all of his New God stuff, because Kirby's such a huge influence on all of comics. So someday I'm sure I'll read all of it, and then there will be a video that comes out of that, because that'll be fun to do. And it'll also be very different than the Mr. Miracle video that I did, because that's taking New Gods and doing like a totally different thing with it. CHXSC says, I know this isn't really Halloweeny. That's okay. Obviously, a lot of these questions are not Halloweeny, but that's totally fine. But could you make any recommendations of comics for people who like the Lego Movie? Talking in terms of tone. Thank you. You're the best. So Lego Movie's tone, which I'm a huge fan of, is playful but thoughtful, right? We're taking like a really big concept to explore some more universal but personal issues. But it's all having a lot of fun. Like it has a lot of fun, and then it kind of hits you with a gut punch to some degree. So with that, oh boy. That's really tough. This is an incredibly tough. This is an incredibly tough question. I could have just skipped this one, but I thought it was really interesting. Um, gosh, oh man, you're really stumping me here. I'm gonna have to think about this. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get back to you. Or if someone has thoughts on what might play into that, please say in the comments. Leroy Harston, what's your opinion on Invincible? I've only read a bit, but I liked it. And which one do you like better, Fantastic Four or the Avengers? Fantastic Four, for sure, easily. Let's see. Hold on, loading some more comments here. Michelle asks, was there a non-horror movie that had a scene that really creeped you out as a kid? Yeah, the scary clown scene from Brave Little Toaster, if anyone's seen that. Let's see. Would I, oh yeah, Michelle says that they loved this one, Summer. I actually gifted a signed copy to a friend. That's awesome. Yeah, that's such a great book. Would you ever write your own comic? Do you have any interest in it? I do have some interest in it. Yeah, it would be fun to write my own comic at some point. Yeah, that would be cool. I have some ideas. Yeah, for new properties and for like existing, characters. I have some ideas. Let's see. Grim S just says Final Crisis. That's like my least favorite Grant Morrison book that I've ever read. I don't really like it. Maybe I should reread it, but I've read it a few times and I really didn't like it, which is why I touched on it in the Morrison Batman video to talk about how it connects, and then I just move on because I don't really care for it. Tony Varela, would you ever consider focusing on Ben Grimm, The Thing? Dude has gone through so much. Maybe an artist or writer's best story about the Rock Man. I love Ben Grimm. He is great. Like, he is easily one of the best Marvel characters ever. Like, the amount of personality in that character, the amount of like pathos to that character, but how fun that character is too, and how many ways they take that character. He's so great. Like, I know I've only done one Fantastic Four video, but I always keep saying that I want to do more, that I keep meaning to do more. Yeah, I really want to do more on Fantastic Four and just talk about, like, you could do like one of the solo series for The Thing, or just like a really Thing-centric arc, or you could do like This Man, This Monster. He's got a great arc in Mark Waid's Fantastic Four, and that's a run that I've been meaning to do for a long time, meaning to cover. And so it would be great to talk about him, because to me, he is the heart of Fantastic Four. Like, I like all the characters, and I think they're fun and interesting and compelling in their own ways. But The Thing, I mean, he is the rock on which the entire comic is built. I know that's cheesy, but it's true. Without The Thing, the comic doesn't nearly have as much humanity or appeal to it as it would otherwise. Quiet Night says, "Hey Matt, Grouchy Geek here. Name change. Nice to see you. Thank you for letting me know. You looking fresh, dude. I like the facial hair. Yeah, I've gotten used to it. I've had it for a few months now. Let's see. Matt Keaton, thoughts on Snyder's Swamp Thing and Lemire's Animal Man? I really like those too. I read those back when they were coming out, so I haven't read it in a long time, but I really enjoyed them. I love the dueling stories of the green and the red and the rot sort of affecting both of them, and then the way that they cross over. Really cool. I can see that those guys had a lot of synergy going on, and I think they've done an indie together. I think it was After Death or something like that. I haven't read it, but I think those guys like each other, and I think they're both really interesting comics. And those are both very much horror comics. Like, if we're talking about like how is Alan Moore's Saga of the Swamp Thing horror, it is sometimes horror. But both Lemire's Animal Man and Snyder's Swamp Thing are horror. Like, they are horror through and through. Very disturbing at times. Yeah. Eric asks, or he says, or I thought you were saying prequels or sequels about Star Wars. Can we talk about Star Wars for a second? because I just watched the first episode of Mandalorian season 2 last night, and which I loved. I thought it was awesome. Like I love that show, and I'm really not in on. I haven't been in on Star Wars for like 20 years, to be honest, because I love the original trilogy, and then I grew up at a time when the prequels were coming out, and quickly learned that Star Wars had suddenly become bad. And then I think that the sequel trilogy is kind of a failure, especially by the end. But I think Mandalorian is so cool. Like that is everything I've ever wanted. Like I really do not care at all about Jedi. Like they are not interesting to me in the slightest. Like I like smugglers and bounty hunters, and I like the grimy side of Star Wars. And so like that show is everything I want. And like season 1 wasn't perfect. There was a lot of like some episodes weren't as good as others, but man, it was really enjoyable. And when it hit, it hit hard. And Mandalorian season 2 is off to such a good start. I'm really happy about it. Like for the first time in years, like I love Star Wars. That's crazy to me. Michelle asks, have you ever cried from a superhero movie? If so, which one and what scene? Into the Spider-Verse made me cry like a lot. Like that is definitely the one. And I'm talking about like the death of Uncle Aaron, the What's Up Danger scene, and then the end, like crying for like the second half of that movie, like constantly. And yeah, that movie is so emotional. It's so touching. It's like it's so personal for a movie that is so stylish and like big and brash. Like it has so much heart like in it, and that just made me cry like crazy. Yeah. I got tiny bit teary at the very end of Endgame, like tiny bit, just at the very end, like with like Steve and Peggy dancing. But it was like, oh, like my eyes slightly changed moisture. Like that wasn't a movie that really made me cry. And I know people talk about like Iron Man dying, spoilers by the way, being something that they cried about. But to me, it was like when the movie, like at first I thought, I'm not sure, either Iron Man or Captain America are going to die here. And I wasn't sure who was going to die. But then an hour into that movie, and the movie was 3 hours long, I was like, Tony Stark is like dead. Like this movie is obviously telling me that Tony Stark is like a dead man. So when he died, I was like, well, yeah, let's check off that box now. So that didn't really make me emotional. Gosh, what else? I know there's other stuff. Superman the movie from 1978 makes me a little teary because it's just so like wonderful and sweet, and I guess I can announce right now that that's the topic of my next video. In a couple weeks from now, I'm gonna have a video coming out on Richard Donner's 1978 Superman the movie. So that's the next video. I'm almost done editing it, by the way. And then we're on to Daredevil. Yeah, I guess those are kind of the big ones. I'm sure there's more. There's got to be something. Does Paddington count as a superhero movie? Paddington Bear is kind of a superhero, and he makes me cry a lot. Death Rattle, would you ever review Miracle Man by Alan Moore? Yeah, that would be cool. Maybe some point. I don't have it on the schedule yet, but it's really interesting. Michael or Michelle, I'm sorry, Darnell. I don't know. I'm mispronouncing your name. Either way. Thoughts on Moon Knight? I love him and think you should cover him more. I think his connections with horror, especially mythology, are criminally underused. Yes, I should cover Moon Knight more. And I've been meaning to do a video on Jeff Lemire's Moon Knight for a while. I did a video on Moon Knight a while ago on an author who shall not be named. And I want to do a Lemire video because it's a really interesting exploration of Moon Knight's mythology and connection to religion to some degree, and then also his psychological torment. Really cool. That'll happen. Maybe because Moon Knight is coming out for Disney Plus, like that's gonna like really like put it on the schedule for me. Because again, like I don't want to cover a topic just because it's popular at the moment. But if I have a topic that I want to do and it is going to become popular because of something, then it will make me bump it up in the schedule because it's nice to get more views. To me, it's not all about views, but it is nice to get more people interested. That's just how it goes. Okay, let's see. I am still behind. Frank 7640 asks, is there a Mark Miller book that you like? I'm sure there's one. Starlight. His comic from a few years ago, maybe about 5 years ago, Starlight. Awesome. It was sort of like old Flash Gordon. I really liked Starlight. Highly recommend it. I know he probably wrote that to try and get a movie option, like deal out of it, but yeah, it's great. Luke asks, are you going to do a Halloween 3 video? Probably not. I don't. Maybe I'll do like an unmade Halloween sequels video if there is enough unmade Halloween sequels. That sort of strikes me as a franchise where someone came to them and said, I have an idea, and they said, here's your money, let's go make it right now. But I'm not sure about Halloween 3. Yeah. Miguel Montañez asks, do you like optimistic comics or grim dark comics more? Generally, I like more optimistic comics more. Sometimes I feel like I know that grim dark comics are like trying to be more realistic and more like the real world, but sometimes I think they're actually less realistic than more optimistic comics, because I feel like sometimes grim dark comics are just grim for the sake of being grim, and they will sort of manipulate characters or break them or break a story in a certain way just to sort of, be edgy. And I feel like sometimes that doesn't feel real. Whereas optimistic comics that like speak to like the heart of people and like try and like get to the core of what a superhero really like to illustrate what a superhero really means are more authentic to the reason why comics were made. So, that's kind of what I think. Not that I don't like either. Like, of course, I like Daredevil a lot, and there's a ton of really dark Daredevil comics, but those always feel like authentically dark. Like we're dealing with a darker world, and everything, and the logic of that sort of like deals with that. That's my opinion on that. Let's see. Grim asks, what about Lucifer or Marvel Zombies? Owen Likes Comics just did a Marvel Zombies video. Please go subscribe to Owen Likes Comics and check out his Marvel Zombies video. Well, let's see. Yeah, Galactic 85. Death of Jonathan Kent and Superman the movie makes me cry. Surprising because the character doesn't have much screen time, but it's still so heartbreaking. All the Smallville stuff in that movie especially is great. It's not a perfect movie, but it's a great movie. And the Smallville stuff with the Kents and the death of Jonathan and everything, it's just such like a perfect section. Masterpiece right there. Like really great. Have anything special for November? No, November is just one video to prepare for December. So cut that down. Like I was talking about with Halloween videos, get ahead of schedule so I can do a lot more videos in 1 month. Let's see. Oh, I'm almost caught up here. Let's see. I'm asked about True Detective. I've never seen True Detective. What do you think about comic book stores, and are they dying? That's hard to say. It being in the pandemic and everything is definitely not helpful, but I don't think they're dying. I just think that sort of the model of the distribution model for comic books is not feasible for healthy, thriving businesses. Like it's just not. Like, and then you look at like a creator like Raina Telgemeier, who's done Smile and Guts and Ghosts, and the way that she is distributed through Scholastic, she's like the highest selling comics creator right now because she's found an audience and she's found a way to get her books to that audience that is not through comic book stores. And she's huge. Like she is a highly successful, highly talented person that is using the comic book medium, but is not having to be subjected to the whims of DC Comics and Diamond Distribution and stuff like that. And comic book stores don't benefit from that. Yeah, that's tough. Let me go back through a little bit. Make sure there's any. Michelle asks, whose art style do you really enjoy? Do you think the artwork is sometimes underrated when it comes to discussing comics? Yes, I think it is underrated when it comes to discuss comics sometimes, which is why I try to focus on it and try to make it a major part, because this is a visual medium and the artists are just as much of the creator as the writer. Because depending on the writer, obviously some are really more diligent with what they want and some are less, but pacing, emotion, even the visual representations of thematics, that's what comics need to they need to rely on to be a medium. This is what makes the medium special. Yeah, so I think that it's tough because I'm blanking on the creator, the writer that said that comics are a cold medium as opposed to a hot medium, whereas like film and television are a hot medium, and that they are alive and you're and moving on their own. You process the movement just by being an observer, whereas comics are a cold medium and they're visually stagnant. And as a reader, you have to mentally engage with them to make the story flow. You have to connect the panels on your own. And that doesn't happen without the work of like a really talented comic book artist. Like, it just doesn't. As far as whose art style I really enjoy, David Mazzucchelli is probably my favorite artist of all time. All eras, like if you look at his like 80s work on like Batman Year One and Born Again, like he's got a very clean, classical, realistic interpretation that also cuts down on detail for really clean lines and clean aesthetics of characters and environments. And that really makes his artwork extremely visually pleasing, but also still dynamic, because his forms are really realistic, but he has a great sense of movement and emotion. And then his later stuff, like Asterios Polyp, which is an incredibly experimental comic. Check out Asterios Polyp if you don't know it, but it's all highly stylized, and it's using characters as representations of their own like worldviews. Like your main character is constantly rendered in a geometric 3D model because of his outlook on life, and then his other characters are done in different art styles, and the word bubbles and thought bubbles are all done as also visual representations of their own style and worldview. And sometimes they collide and sometimes they disconnect. And it's this really intensely of a piece comic book art. And from both sides, like he's amazing. He's the best. And he's, to me, he's one of the all-time greats. He's right up there. Mobius, also, I'm a huge fan of Mobius. And his insane worlds. And also I love his like fine lining for shading and giving his characters a roundness and a depth. Really awesome. I love that too. Those are sort of my platonic ideals of creators, but there's a ton. Recently, I really love Erica Henderson. If you've heard of a Dracula Mother Effer, that's a new comic that just came out from her and Alex DeCampi. If you like horror, there's another here. If you like horror comics for Halloween, check out Dracula Mother Effer. Like, it's fun. It's super short, but it's super stylish. So those are some of my favorites. Let's see. Am I still planning on doing an EC Comics video sometime? I don't know when. That doesn't have to be a Halloween one. It'll be fun during Halloween, but it can be its own thing, like the history of EC Comics and how they were affected by the Comics Code Authority and what they represented at a time in comics and their legacy. I think it'll be a really interesting video. Like my Shazam video, which I don't know if anyone here has seen it, but that was all about the history of Shazam and Shazam's like impact on the comic book industry by being screwed over by Marvel and DC, which I loved making. That was one of my favorites that I made this year, I think. But it'll talk about that, like talk about how this now missing piece of comics is super influential. For Every Kind of Geek asks, You've talked about potentially writing a Superman story. Do you have a premise for what it could be? I have a few, and I will not be telling anyone. Not until someone pays me to do it. That's the idea. Although I did put out a Spider-Man comic idea that I wanted to see, which was like Spider-Man meets the Warriors, the film from the 80s, the film from the late 70s, The Warriors, and sort of set in like a gritty 70s or 80s New York, and have Spider-Man without any webbing and his small group of fellow heroes like Iron Fist and Luke Cage have to fight their way through like a gang-ridden and super villain-ridden 70s Manhattan. I put that out there. That would be awesome to see. But then apparently there's something in Miles Morales that's a little similar to that. But yeah, League of Extraordinary video, League of Extraordinary videos, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen video anytime soon. Maybe. I like it. I especially like the first volume of League, and volume 2 is pretty good. And then I did not like Black Casebook, and I didn't even bother with Century. To me, I don't really like a lot of modern Alan Moore comics, but I like League, at least the first couple volumes of League. So maybe. Mr. Person asks, is there anything you would like to see from a new Nightmare on Elm Street sequel? That's tough. They need to get away from the crazy jokiness of like 4, 5, and 6, but they also shouldn't be so dark and unpleasant as the reboot. Like the tone of like the first 3, or especially 1 and Dream Warriors, is definitely like what they should go for in a new Nightmare on Elm Street. I know that people would probably want Robert Englund back, but he's getting old. But then again, he doesn't have to do that much as Freddy, and he's got the makeup on, so they can bring him back, right? Like he's not running around and picking people up like, Jason or Michael Myers. He's just kind of standing there taunting them, and he changes into some weird thing and then kills them, right? So they could bring him back. Maybe they would eventually have to recast him, but I don't know. Maybe that. It's tough to say exactly what they should do, but at least for the tone, that's kind of what the tone should be. It shouldn't be so it shouldn't be grim. It shouldn't be unpleasant. It shouldn't be, disgusting. It should be fun and spooky. It should be spooky and not scary. It should be spooky, if you get the difference between the two. Question of, do you have a favorite animated series? Well, I'm a huge fan of Batman, the animated series. I'm a huge fan of Avatar, Justice League Unlimited, Superman, the animated series, Cowboy Bebop. Those are some of my favorites. Bob's Burgers. I'm a big Bob's Burgers fan. Those are some of my favorite ones. Let's see. Are you going to read 70s Tomb of Dracula by Wolfman and Colin? I've read some of that. Yeah, I've read the bits and pieces of that. And that would be fun to cover sometime. I talked on Twitter about possibly talking about having a video that talked about the 70s Marvel horror boom. After the Comics Code Authority sort of loosened up a bit and they did Tomb of Dracula and all that stuff around it. Like, I think that would be a fun topic. The Marvel side of horror versus like the EC Comics side of horror. So you get the earlier EC Comics boom, and you get the slightly later Marvel Comics boom. Those would be cool separate legacies of horror. Soviet Samurai asks, hey Matt, I've recently been watching Legion and it's really blown me away. Ever seen it? I haven't seen it. I know it's supposed to be really great, and that's just one of those. There's so many TV shows, and they all take a long time to watch, and I haven't watched it. But yeah, I've heard good things. It was only 3 seasons, I think, so not a ton of commitment. Let's see. Leroy Harston asks, have you read Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur? I have not. But I've heard a lot of good things about that. Right now I'm going through Unbeatable Squirrel Girl which was around the same time. I think that was one of the blind spots of that era of Marvel for me that I hadn't read before. So after I'm done with that, I might want to read Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, because I heard good things about that too. And it seems like a slightly similar vibe, fun, all ages, empowering. I'm very much into that. Let's see, Eric. I have not read Joelle Jones' Lady Killer. I heard good things about that too. Let's see. Let's see. Michelle, should stories have a strong theme, or are they just great additional parts of a story? I really enjoyed Superman's Secret Identity. Seemed to focus on morality, aging, especially toward the end. I think I'm drawn toward comics with a strong theme. And I think that maybe that's because I do these videos, and a lot of these videos really, they really like, let's see. Hold on. Putting people in timeout. Just give me a second. That's the thing. Sometimes you gotta put people in timeout, or maybe block them entirely. Maybe later, but timeout for now. I'm drawn to comics with like really strong themes because it's really interesting to dig into for a video. There's a lot of comics that I read that don't have like tons of strong themes. They're just like really interesting character pieces, or they've got cool action, or that they they're just fun. Maybe I won't do a video on them because I don't know what else to say besides it was a lot of fun, but I enjoy it a lot. But both are great. The comic can be extremely shallow, but really stylish and fun and exciting and have good characters. And I'll love it just as much as something that's super deep. It doesn't have to. Let's see. How do you feel about King in Black and Donny Cates' recent takeover at Marvel? I'm not up to date on Venom. I've read some, so I'm not like super excited about King in Black. I'm not like hyped about Null. But it seems like it'll be a cool big event. I know Donny Cates has just like exploded. Like he's gone huge. Like in just a few years, really, he's become like one of Marvel's like go-to guys. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here, because I feel like as a writer, he's really latched on to like 90s comic book nostalgia. And there's a lot of writers that their vision for a comic when they take it over is to invoke the era where they really got into comics, right? So Donny got really into comics in the 90s probably. So a lot of the comics that he writes now evoke a lot of 90s comics. And to me, that's not super interesting. He's not just doing 90s style stories, but it's more of just his general like playground, obviously with Venom. So I'm not a huge Venom guy just in general, but I've liked what he's done. It's interesting. He's doing this whole like cosmic side, right? I haven't read his Thor yet either. I'm a huge Thor fan just in general, but I haven't read it yet. I know he's only like one arc in, and it wasn't super interesting to me, at least from the concept of like Thor feeling unworthy yet again, Galactus and whatnot. I was like, okay, whatever. Let's see. Let's see. Nathan Wood, you just mentioned Cowboy Bebop. What other, if any, anime have you seen / enjoyed? One Punch Man, Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, some of the bigger ones. Nothing, I don't pretend to be an expert in anime, because it's like the anime is like its own thing too. I look at like all the stuff that I'm into and what I watch and read a lot of, like comic books or horror movies or more like classic film. And like anime is also like its own thing. It's like it takes a lot of time to dive into comics, takes a lot of time to dive into anime. So yeah. Let's see. Theodore P. I just joined, and did you just explain the difference between spooky and scary? Now, Halloween movies are not horror movies. That's a good point. So any horror movie can be a Halloween movie, right? Mostly, but Halloween movies specifically have to do more with like a season. Like, I'm blanking on it. Gosh, what's the movie with the witches? Not the witches, and not the witch. Gosh, Hocus Pocus. Like I recently watched Hocus Pocus. That's not a horror movie, but that's definitely a Halloween movie. It has to do with Halloween. It's set on Halloween. It has like fun thematics of the season, but it's not scary, unless you're like 3 years old or something. But it's fun, and that's definitely a Halloween movie. And that's where like spooky and scary are different. Like I think about how like two of my favorite like spooky things are Disneyland's The Haunted Mansion, the ride, and it's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And they both have spooky elements, but they're not really scary. Yeah, so that's kind of spooky versus scary, Halloween, horror. Let's see. Here, see some more. Let's see. Dracula also had ties to X-Men by Chris Claremont in Uncanny 159. X-Men Annual 6, where Dracula tried to make Storm his bride. Great art by Bill Sienkiewicz before New Mutants. That's right. I forgot about that. It's always weird when like Dracula crosses over like that, or like especially with X-Men. Like, that's a very strange property for Dracula to suddenly have an interest in. Let's see. Which Bob's Burgers character would you say you're the most like? Probably Bob. I'm probably the most like Bob. Let's see. Feel free to ask me some more questions because I am catching up here. Probably want to go for like another half an hour and then let you all enjoy your Halloween. Let's see. What's the most that comic guy 34 asks, what's the most overrated comic book character? It's absolutely the Joker. It is 100% the Joker. He is the most overrated comic book character of all time. Especially in the last few years. Like the amount of like oversaturation of the Joker and how like every Batman story has to have the Joker in it now. It's just like, give me a break. Like I'm a fan of like classic Joker stories, and I'm a fan of Batman the Animated Series Joker, but like he went from being like a standout of Batman's villains to being just like, it's probably because he's huge in merchandising too. And of course there was the Joker movie from the other year and stuff like that, but he's just so oversaturated, so overhyped. And it's like, please give me a break with the Joker. And I think that really started around like, well, like the animated series made Joker like break out, right? And have like this big like iconic mainstream, incarnation. And then, you had Joker things off and on, like Last Laugh and whatnot. But then like Scott Snyder, like constantly using the Joker was like when he started to really become way overused. And now Joker's like in everything. It's like, give me a break with this stuff. And then like Batman Who Laughs is basically just Joker in, Batman makeup. And it's like, please no more. Like death metal and its reliance on Batman Who Laughs is just so tedious. Please give me a break with this stuff. That's what I think. Some Okie dude, does reading Alan Moore's Swamp Thing make you insecure as a writer? I know it does for me. I can see that. Like when it's tough, sometimes you'll read like a great writer and you're like, this is so good. I just need to go write right now. Like it's an inspiration of like, that's great. That's what something great is. Like a great piece of art makes you inspired to like make your own art. You're like, this is just like the creativity of this person is sparking the creativity in me. But then sometimes it's like, this is so great, like I am like overshadowed by it. Just it's daunting to even think of like existing in the same medium as this person. Um, for me, it's a little different with Swamp Thing because I am writing about it. So it sparks the creativity in me to want to write about it. Like I am not writing Swamp Thing. I am writing about Swamp Thing. And so because Swamp Thing is so creative, and this is the same thing with like this is a lot of the stuff that I cover. This is so creative and interesting that I am sparked to want to like make stuff about it. But if I was suddenly like hired by DC Comics to write Swamp Thing, like the last thing I would do would be to reread Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, because I would say like, what the hell am I supposed to do now after this? Let's see. R Xerox says, how do you feel about the current X-Men crossover with Hickman, host of writers, Ten of Swords? We're in the middle of it, and it's 22 chapters. I'm not caught up on Ten of Swords. I really liked Hoxpox. Big fan of that one. And I just haven't stayed up to date with X-Men. Usually what happens is I get really jazzed about X-Men, especially with House and Powers. And then suddenly there's all of these X-Men titles. And then I say, you know what? Forget it. Like, I can't keep up with all this stuff. So I'm behind. But I know people really like it. Let me know in the comments if you're reading Hicksmen, and if you're reading Ten of Swords and what you think about it. Matt Keaton says, favorite comic book ending? For me, it has to be Sweet Tooth by Jeff Lemire. The ending of Sweet Tooth is so perfect. It is so absolutely perfect that I am pissed that he is making more Sweet Tooth. That he's doing Sweet Tooth: The Return, a miniseries with another guy, with another Deer Boy. I don't know what the hell's going on there. It's just because there's a Sweet Tooth TV series coming out. He's like, well, I got to make more Sweet Tooth and I'll make money, I guess. Because I love Sweet Tooth, and Jeff Lemire, no more Sweet Tooth. Like, stop it. Like, absolutely just stop it. This was perfect. That ending is perfect. Like, why would you possibly want to like screw with that? I don't know. That's how perfect it is. But it's tough. Like, because like comic book endings are difficult because unless it's a creator-owned, like, independent title, then you're writing in the shadow of knowing that what you're writing about has to keep going. Like, Born Again, the end of Born Again is like a perfect ending to me. And if there was never another Daredevil comic after the end of Born Again, which is, my name is Matt Murdock, I live in Hell's Kitchen, I try to keep it clean, and he's on this, walking down the street with Karen arm in arm, and they're happy. Perfect ending. Perfect ending to Born Again. Perfect ending to Daredevil. You never need another Daredevil comic after that. Now, of course, I'm happy that there are more Daredevil comics because I'm a huge fan of that character. And there's a ton of great stories, but that was it. Like, that's the end. Like, what else do you say? Let's see. I mean, so Jester Double asks, which superhero in comics do you believe is consistently well written? It's definitely Daredevil. Lachey Soon asked, do you like Back to the Future franchise? Yes, I do. I actually recently rewatched Back to the Future 1 and 3. Not 2, but I like 2 also. And I'm a fan. I mean, the first movie is really great. But and the rest is super fun. But the first is like a great movie all on its own. Let's see. Dog Early, will you do more Alfred Hitchcock videos? Probably. It's let's see. Just put another user in timeout. Yeah. The first video that I ever did was Rear Window. So that was fun to do. And then, just with the Psycho video. And I do want to do a video on Vertigo. And, maybe more after that. So at least one more, I think. Let's see. CHX, gotta go. Thanks for all your great videos. Thanks for your great videos. Happy Halloween, y'all. Happy Halloween. Thanks for stopping by and asking some great questions. Let's see. Yeah, people saying Scarecrow is definitely not overused, needs more Scarecrow stories. Yeah, that would be nice. I agree. R0X, what do you think of the 90s swimsuit issues? Like Marvel swimsuit, despite its looked down upon fan art, still had fun with it on Twitter with the tag Marvel swimsuit 2018, although Marvel won't go there. I mean, it's funny because like that's so silly. And obviously, like, depending on the creators that were behind it, like some of it was it's a very, those are super silly issues. Those are super silly issues, right? My throat's getting a little dry there. It's, you know, people having fun, and there's tons of fan art. Like modern fan art is basically people doing their own Marvel swimsuit issues. But of course, Marvel won't touch that stuff now. Like Disney, like owning Marvel, like would never do another like swimsuit issue. Like you can see just a change in like the general dynamics of like the movies and the comics after Disney bought Marvel. Like it became more all ages. If you think about like phase one of like Marvel movies versus the rest, there's like zero like sex in any Marvel movie ever since, you know, Disney bought it. I'm not saying like sex, but like the idea that the characters have like a sexuality, like that they have romantic interests, and that there's more than just like a kiss. And that stuff like was cut out of those movies after Disney bought them. So post Avengers, like none of that is really a thing. And I think that it's sort of is Disney, you know, removing this whole side of like people and personalities for the sake of being, you know, all ages and constantly family appropriate. And I think that, you know, I don't need tons of that in my superhero movies or whatever, but like it adds something to it. Like I mentioned before that I really like Batman Returns. And that's a movie with like a lot of sex in it. Like just the characters, you know, have that interest. They have desires. And that's kind of lacking in a lot of like modern Marvel, which if we want to believe that these are real people with like real lives, like that should at least be something that is like in their life. Doesn't have to be graphic, doesn't have to be like explicit. Like I don't need any of that, but we're kind of like, so like the Marvel swimsuit stuff is like something that would be impossible to happen now. Michelle, what are interests, hobbies that we would be surprised to hear you have? What are interests and hobbies? It's weird. I mean, like, the whole quarantine lockdown kind of stopped a lot of like going to the gym a lot and like working out like outside and stuff like that. Like, you know, I don't get to do that as much now. Try and work out at home. Probably one thing that I do. Gosh, I don't know. I enjoy drawing, you know, in my free time when I have it off and on. There's little expressions of creativity. Let's see. Do you find it difficult to read comics that force you to read other title tie-ins? For me, it annoys me that I have to buy something else and the story isn't one arc. Yeah, that's tough. I'm not a fan of that. I don't really I don't, yeah, just being sidelined, having to go somewhere else. It's definitely a tactic to make more money. So I don't know. That's kind of tough. I'm not a fan. I like contained stuff. Stuff like Immortal Hulk is good because when they do a tie-in, it's its own separate thing. Like they're like, here's a once-off Immortal Hulk tie-in with absolute carnage, and this is like not part of the main series, and you can read it if you want. So I like that. What do you think your most controversial comic book opinion is? Asks Matt Keaton. Gosh. Most controversial. That's kind of tough. I don't know. I mean, if I told you like I think that like Tom King's Batman is terrible, probably half people would say I agree, and half people say like no, like you're completely wrong. So maybe that's controversial to some. I don't know. They should probably like cut Batman out of all DC comics for 5 years, maybe. Maybe that's my most controversial. Yeah, like cut him out. Like get rid of Batman for 5 years. Like there's too much. Burning Exeter says, question, do you think the Friday the 13th franchise will come out of limbo? Eventually, It's all because of the court cases and rights, but I think that there's too much money being left on the table for them to keep it in limbo forever. Something will be figured out. So, you know, it might be a while still, but it is tough because like the franchise going into all the court cases like stalled out the video game. Like they had that game going and they had all the different suits and like they basically had to stop making updates to Friday the 13th, the video game, because of that lawsuit, which is pretty crazy. Yes. R Xerox 21. How should I view Batman, Long Halloween, and other stories by Jeff Loeb with the recent comments about Asians and downplaying the hand subplot on Daredevil Netflix? Yeah, you might have heard like the comments that were apparently said by Jeff Loeb about like Asian representation on Daredevil were really bad, like really horrible to hear. Like, because of that, like I'm not gonna do any more. I'm not gonna do any more videos about Jeff Loeb comics, but I am gonna do a video on season 2 of Daredevil, and in that I will like address that specifically, regarding like the portrayal of the hand of Asian characters by this guy that was the producer over all these Marvel shows and who's clearly, prejudice comments like influence the trajectory of the shows, like will have to be dealt with. Yeah, it's tough to say. Like, can you read them still? Can you enjoy them? I don't think that you should support creators who are still, creating stuff, who are like in positions of power. And so the issue is like, can you talk about someone that's been dead for like 100 years when you find out like all the terrible things that they said? Well, they're not alive anymore. Like they don't have any like power to hold over people. But if you cover someone that's still alive and still has power and you go and praise them, then you give them more power. And that gives them more leeway to perpetrate like, more, terrible things. And that's like the difference. Like, so I'm not here to like make videos that are like takedowns on someone, but I'm also not here to praise people that are clearly like doing some bad stuff in life. And that's why like I'm not going to do any more Warren Ellis, videos too, because obviously he's a bad dude. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how to look at those. It's tough to say exactly. I know it's very complicated. Let's see. Let's see. Anything else? Apparently the KGB are watching me. It's very nice. I'll put that guy in timeout. Anything else? Let's see. Deanie Dude 7. Ever read East of West? No, I haven't actually. Nice mustache, thank you. And any updates on the Morrison Batman video? The third part of the Grant Morrison Batman videos covering Batman Inc. will probably be out in January. Yeah. Gonna do one video this month, or one video in November. December is all Daredevil, and then January will probably be the Batman Incorporated video. Let's see. Gerard Wallace, that Jeff Loeb stuff is really petty of you. Well, it's my channel, and I can kind of do whatever I want with it. And I can always choose who to cover and who not to cover. Can I cover someone whose work I don't like? Am I supposed to cover something that I'm not interested in? If someone makes like racist comments, should I really continue to cover them? Well, I think that given my own views and given the, what I want to say and not say, or, my videos are all about, putting spotlights in different things and analyzing stuff. And, I think that in the end, I can kind of do whatever I want. Did I say that Jeff Loeb's work is bad because he said some bad things? No, the quality of that is not necessarily tied to who he is as a person. You can see plenty of artists over time talk about, who aren't great people, but made great stuff. But I don't really want to talk about them. But it is the internet, and it is YouTube, and it is a free platform. So what I'm saying is you can go ahead and make videos on your own. Now, they're not going to be as good as mine, but that's your fault, not mine. So I'm going to say goodbye to Gerard. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Anything else? Let's see. Have you read The Phantom? No, I haven't. Let's see. Yes, what else is here? Any other ones? We're going to go for about 5 more minutes. So if you have any other questions, please let me know. Let's see. R0X2, consider Peter Tomasi and Batman and Robin. Great companion story for Morrison Batman. Yeah, due to delving into the more emotional aspect of Bruce and Damian. Yeah, that's a great run too. That would be its own thing. That whole Tomasi, Gleason, Batman and Robin run is really cool and plays off of like the Morrison stuff. But that would be its own video too, because it deserves its own like focus. D-Flow, any TV dramas you would like to cover one day on the channel? I'd love to hear your analyses on a show like Mad Men, etc. Those would be fun. It's tough because like those are like a lot of seasons and hour-long shows, and it's kind of tough to like it takes a lot of research, right? So I would have to kind of casually watch those over time, or rewatch to prepare. But it would be fun. It would be fun to do more more of that. So maybe someday, because it's a little bit easier to say like watch a movie or read one comic book or a short series of comics and do a video on that. There's like less time having to devote to refamiliarizing yourself with the material. Whereas like a long show, it's definitely like a lot more time. So like talking like 2 hours versus like 40, but it would be fun to do for sure. Let's see. I don't want to oppose, but I think the Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino Green Arrow run would make for a great analysis on the evolution of the hero. Thinking of writing an article myself, says Deanie Dude. Yeah, that's a great run. I'm a big fan of that one too. As someone that isn't like a Green Arrow completist, yeah, I really enjoyed that. That would be fun to do. Matt Keaton says, dressing up tonight? I don't think I am. I'm not going anywhere. So I don't think I'm going to dress up, but we'll probably watch a movie or two. Let's see. Mr. Person, thoughts on the Terminator? I'm a fan of Terminator 1 and 2. And then the rest are a little spotty to bad. But I'm a big fan of the first two. Let's see. Let's see. Some Okie Dude, has there been any creators who you've been connected to that have hurt you with their screw-ups? Well, no one I've personally been connected to. But when the stuff about Warren Ellis came out, that was tough because I was a huge fan of his stuff. But yeah, that was like, oh my gosh, like, oh, and Mike Mignola and everything that happened with him, like, was like, ugh, like, this is tough, because it's like, oh, you can be a big fan of a person's work and then, really, not like, their own like personal life decisions. Michael Darnell, who would you pick to write Moon Knight? Who did I pick to write? Someone new. Someone new to write Moon Knight. Who is a more recent creator that hasn't written Moon Knight that might have an interesting take on that character? Kieran Gillen might be an interesting one to cover Moon Knight. I think he might do some interesting work with his whole world. I don't know. That's really tough. because there's been a lot of great Moon Knight creators over the years. And so it would be nice to have anyone really, and someone would have to like match up to that. I see Doss says Nick Spencer might do a good Moon Knight. I can see that. He'd kind of have a more fun and lighter take, which might be nice on that character. I don't know. That's a good question. I hope that they have someone on that, because again, he's coming with a new series, so you're gonna have some comics to come out with it, and I think they need like top of the line talent to work on that too. Zdarsky might be good on Moon Knight. I think that might be fun for him. Balance the more wild and fun side of Zdarsky's work with his darker side, that he does with Daredevil. So yeah, okay. Let's see. We're at 2 hours here, so I'm gonna scroll through the comments one last time, maybe answer one or two more questions. Get in your questions before I have to go. Let's see. Favorite Halloween candy would have to be like, I don't know, just normal Reese's peanut butter cups, but shaped as pumpkins. What do you think is Grant Morrison's biggest brain comic? I mean, maybe Flex Mentallo or The Invisibles, for better or worse. Let's see. Oh, Matkin says Al Ewing could be interesting on Moon Knight. Yeah, he would be cool. Looks like that's about it. But yeah, thank you all for hanging out. Let's wrap this up. But yeah, thank you for stopping by. It's been fun. So yeah, we were about a little over 2 hours. And again, thank you for stopping. Thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. And yeah, we'll do this again sometime. Maybe for December, if I'm ahead on those videos. And have some free time. We can do like a Daredevil themed live hangout. And yeah, take care. Happy Halloween, everyone. Have a fun and safe night. And I'll be back again with another video soon.